Hey everybody, hope you're doing well and staying safe. In this video, it's going to be the creation for this splash screen for our React Native project. So this is what I have open right now. It's VS Code, but you can use whatever software developer environment you want. But I'm just going to go and open my project folder. So mine's on my desktop, my workout app folder. So this is my project right here. I have 3 extra files here, so just ignore that. The main one that we want to look at is this one right here. I did run into an issue previously trying to do this, so I had to redo my project, but so that's why it has the 2 at the end. Anyways, so to begin, I'm going to first change directory into my workout folder. So let's do a cd, and then the name of my folder. In this case, it's my workout app 2. So if I do ls, you can see that all these files match what's inside the project folder here. And then what I'm going to do is, because I'm on Windows, I'm going to do React Native in my terminal, then press space, and then do run Android. If you were using a Mac, because you'd be doing run-iOS, not Android. So as you can see, the application has built successfully and everything has transferred over from the Node backend to the emulator. If you have that error pop up saying that the thing isn't responding, just say wait, because it's just the emulator moving faster than what the backend is doing. And as you can see, we have step fun. See edit app.js. That's what I did in my previous videos. So now we're going to get rid of all of this and begin building our app for the splash screen and the authentication stack. This video might just be the splash screen, depending upon how long it is. So yeah, but this is what we have so far, just the basic welcome to React. So from here, what we want to do is go into our app.js folder file. So if you go to your project folder, go to app.js, it will be this one right here, sample React Native, and it gives you all this lovely information. What we want to do is highlight all of it and get rid of it because we don't need any of that. And what we want to do instead is start all this from scratch, because we're going to have one file that returns the screens and authentication stack and everything for all of the different tabs and the navigation and everything, but that's going to be a separate folder. So for this, what we're going to do is just say import React from React, and let me make sure not to capitalize import, and then we're going to say const capitalize app because this is a functional component, and we are going to return using the parentheses, and then we're just going to say well, here we do then sorry, so just to make sure this still functions properly, I'm going to import, then as a temporary thing just put text, capitalized T-E-X-T, from React Native. It's a component in React Native, and then I'm going to put in here left chevron text, close the text, and then I'm going to say app, and then to return the app you have to export it, so I'm going to say export default, and then the name of the application, so app, we have to make sure that these match. So if I save this, go back to the emulator, this should disappear, and it should say app in the upper left hand corner. Let's see, so now that we have app here, and if you want to take a look at what's going on, if you click on your index folder right here, in the same folder as your project, see how it says app registry.register component app name, and it's an arrow function for app. This imports the app.js. So that's what it's importing. But the app itself is not what we're going to be doing. We're actually going to create a second folder to store all of the navigation stacks, or the navigation with the auth stack, login stack, everything like that. So in our folder right here, I'm going to right click and say new folder. Then in here, I'm going to call this source. You can call it what you want, but I'm going to call it source. Inside here, I'm going to create a new file and call it main.js, and it has to be capitalized because it's a functional component of React, so main.js. Then inside of this, I'm going to say import React from React. Then I'm going to say, first you have to get the name of the function, right? So it's going to be const main equals arrow function, so that we don't have to, because we're not passing anything in. Then I'm going to say return. Inside my return statement, I am going to pass in, here, 1 second. So above, let me import again text. So import curly braces text from, and then React Native. And I'm going to do the same thing like I did before. Import text, and then inside text, I'm just going to say main.js. Then just like with any functional component, you have to export it. So you say export default, and then the name of the function. In this case, it's main. So this is not going to do anything because I haven't linked this to our app. So in my app.js, I'm going to import main from, and then because we just created the source file, I'm going to put a // and then here it's going to give you a drop-down menu of all the things you can import from. Source is where I have my JS file, so I'm going to say source and then main, because that is what I'm importing from. So yes, so then if I click on main, and then instead of doing the text, I can just say left chevron main, and then a / and a close chevron. This is a excuse me, self-closing tag, so you don't have to put the typical this thing. You don't need to do this because this is kind of, it's encapsulated within itself. So all you have to do is this right here. So before I save this, right now it says app. After I save this, it's going to say, it should be saying main.js. 1 second. Oh, yep. That's because I have, yeah, there you go. So because it screwed up like that, if you click on your emulator, then double tap the R button on your keyboard, it will refresh. So it'll send a force refresh to the node backend, and it'll clear things up. So now you have main.js here. So this is the basic operation for setting up the application. Now, because we're working on the splash screen, if you notice, the splash screen previously had a linear gradient background, and that is actually a separate, it's a separate library you have to download. So, but before we do that, let me create this splash screen so we can get started. So in my source folder that I just created, I'm going to create a new file and call this splash.js. Remember to keep this capitalized because React forces everything to be capitalized if it's a functional component. Inside my splash.js, I'm going to say import, make sure it's capitalized, not capitalized, make sure it's not capitalized. You can say import, and then I'm going to say React because that is from React. And then I'm going to say import. Then from here, because I have an image, I'm going to actually, let me just do text right now. So just do text, and then let me do a view and a style sheet, because the style sheet is how I do the formatting of the information. And then I'm just going to say from inside here, just put React Native. Excuse me. Then I'm going to say const splash splash. Let me spell splash properly. And remember, it has to be capitalized. So I'm going to say const splash is equal to an arrow function, and then I'm going to say return open close parentheses, and then I'm going to put here a view. A view is kind of like a div, so it kind of sections things off. Inside this view, I'm going to put a text, which is like a H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. If you've done HTML, it's just basically that. Then I'm going to say splash. And then I can save it, come down here, do export default. Then the name of my function is splash. So this is yellow, this is yellow, this is good to go. For the sake of argument, I'm going to come in here and say style is, actually first, let me get rid of that. So underneath here, I'm going to say const styles is equal to style sheet dot create, and it's going to be parentheses, then curly braces. Then in here, this is just going to be a temporary background. Excuse me. So I'm going to say this is going to just be temp view colon open close parentheses curly braces. Inside here, I'm going to say width is equal to 100%. Height is equal to 100%. Make sure you have commas after these. Then put background color, and then for the sake of argument, just say red. And then under view here, I'm going to put style is equal to open close curly braces, say styles dot, and then temp view. So this will be applying this style right here to this view. Now that I have this splash screen finished, I have to go to my main here. I'm going to say import splash from, and because this is in the same folder, you can just do a dot / and see how splash pops up immediately. That's what I'm going to be doing. So I have splash right here. So instead of saying text main.js, I'm just going to do like I did previously. So get rid of that, put an open chevron, say splash, and then a self-enclosed chevron. So now if we go back here, see it's red and it says splash. So it's importing this splash with 100% height width, and the background color is red. Now then, because the splash image that I used, you don't have to do how I do it obviously, but what I did was I used a linear gradient, and that is a separate separate library. So to get that finished, you have to, well, you don't need to, I guess, do this, but I'm going to, so I'm just going to close the emulator, shut down the emulator, shut down all of these background processes, so the node package manager, shutting that down too. So that's done. This comes back here, and then what I'm going to do is install the library. And the library to install for this is the following command. Make sure you're in your project folder because you're going to be installing it to your node modules, and the command is npm install. And it's going to be React Native Linear Gradient. So as you can see, the library was just installed. So then if we come here and type in React Native, and again, if you're running Android, do run -Android. If you're doing Mac, then do run -iOS. So as you can see here, we have our splash screen, everything is loaded, and we have this right here. So for this, what we want to do is import the library from the package and start using it. So I'm going to say import, then it's going to be capitalized linear, capitalized gradient from, I'm going to do react dash native dash linear dash gradient, because that's the package that we just downloaded. Save this. It's not going to change anything, obviously, but from here, before I begin, I need to actually import from React Native a couple other things. So first I'm going to import image, because I'm going to be using an image. Then after text, view, and style sheet, I'm going to be doing a safe area view, which and activity indicator. Excuse me. So an activity indicator, which is capitalized, is the circle which spins. So, which you'll see in a second. So I'm going to begin updating this right here. So above my view, I'm going to use the safe area view. So I'm going to have an open chevron and then type safe area view, which you can copy and paste here if you want, or type it out however you want, and then do a close chevron here. So now we have the safe area view, and I'm going to put that underneath my view. So it's going to be a safe area view, then the view, then the text, close view, close save area view. And in case you wanted to have some tips, as you saw before, the view was like this. If you just press tab, or highlight the lines and press tab, it will move the selected lines over however much you have indented. In my case, I'm using 4 spaces, so it's going to be indenting 4. And then if you want to un-indent them, you can type, press and hold shift and then tab, and it goes back 4 spaces. So that is it's just a fun tidbit. So that's not going to really do a whole lot to what we're doing, but it's still just nice to know. So after here, inside my view, I'm actually going to get rid of the style, because I'm going to be changing that around. And then I'm going to come down here underneath the view. I'm going to put a linear gradient, and then I'm going to close it off, and I'm going to put that underneath my text right here, like so. And then I'm going to take this and space it out. So now that I have my linear gradient view like so, before the close chevron for this, I'm going to press enter twice, and then in this space I'm going to say colors, and this is where you can put in whatever colors you want for your gradient to have. It does take an array, so it needs at least 2 variables, but you can have up to, I don't know, however many variables you want. But you're going to type in colors equals, then it's going to be color braces, and then brackets. And then for me, I'm just going to type in purple in quotations, and then the second variable I'm going to have after the space is a dark blue. So I press save, come back here, see it's like this. But we also want to put some styling to this as well. So let's actually start that off. So for the safe area view here, I'm going to say style is equal to, and then I'm going to put styles dot, and then main container, because I'm about to create the main container. So I'm going to copy this right here, come down to here, and see where it says temp view. I'm actually going to get rid of this and put main container, and just as before, I'm going to put a colon and then curly brace. Make sure you have a comma after the curly brace. So by default, I'm going to have a flex, colon is going to be 1. My height is going to be 100%. My width is going to be 100%. And then my align self, which is actually capitalized, is going to be center. So that doesn't change anything because that's the whole container that we're talking about. Then inside my view, I'm going to create a second style variable called and label it container. And this container, again, you're going to put a comma after the last curly brace. Say flex is equal to 1. Margin left is going to be 0 because I want it to be at the 0th position on the left. Then margin top is going to be 0 because I want it to be at the 0th position at the top. Then I want flex direction is going to be a column because I want to have it go in column, not by row. And then I want to do a background color of, and then for this background color, I'm just going to give it a generic coloring of $4C669 and then lowercase f. Because this is hexadecimal, you will need to make sure these are lowercase, not uppercase. So for this view, I'm going to come up here and say style is equal to, then put here styles dot and then container, save, and see that is the color which I have. Actually I probably didn't even need to do that because it's going to be covered up by the linear gradient. So speaking of linear gradient, I'm going to come back down to my styles, create a new variable, call it linear gradient. Make sure this is lowercase l, and then a capitalized G because it's camel case. Open close curly braces as before, and you can mess around with this as you want to see how you want to style things out. But for me, I'm going to put a line content, and I'm going to put this as center. And I'm going to put a border radius of 5. I'm going to have a margin top of 0, a margin left as 0, a margin right as 0, then I'm going to do a padding top as 0 too. Then I want my height to be 100%, but I have to put this in quotes. And then I want my width to be 100% too, because I want this to take up the entire space. And then I'm going to do a justify content, and then I'm going to put center. That means everything inside the linear gradient variable is going to be center justified. So if I do linear gradient, come up here to where linear gradient is, see where it says colors, have our array here. You don't need to add a comma because this is within the function, the self-enclosed tag itself, so you don't need to worry about commas. All I have to do is type in style is equal to open close braces and say styles dot and then do linear gradient. Press S, and as you can see, we have a splash here, and then you have all this right here. So again, you don't really need to have the container like so. You can actually get rid of this if you wanted to. And see, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. Actually, it kind of does, because there's still some white right there. So, and then actually for this, we don't need a border radius. It's going to be flat out how we want. So yep, so see, you have that. Now then, because I do want to have an image for my application, So inside my source, I'm going to create a new folder. Inside here, I'm going to call it assets. Then inside my assets, I'm going to right click, create a new folder, and call images. And so now that that's been created, if I go to my assets, my images, I'm going to paste this in here like so. So now I have my splashed image here. And then in my assets, I'm going to create a new folder because I hate how it's like that. And I'm just going to call, I don't know, videos, which we may not implement these later on. And then I'll just put API just for the sake of, actually I'll rename that and put it data. So yes, I have the source, assets, images, splash image here, which you can see it's a png.png. So then in our splash, what we want to do is come up here, do an import, and then I'm going to call this splash image from, and then because I have this in my assets folder, I'm going to do dot / assets / images / and then I called this splash image. So I can probably copy relevant path, curve all of this, splash image.png, save. So then, now that I have my splash image imported, I'm going to come down here beneath this closed chevron, and I'm going to do an image right here. And it's going to be a closing image, so I don't have to do a close tag. Then I'm going to say source is equal to, and then I'm just going to say my splash image because that is the variable I have passed in. So splash image. So if I then save this and I come back here, you can see that it is now imported. But we also want to make sure that the image, when it's imported, is the correct size for how we want. So I'm going to say style is equal to open close braces styles, and then I'm going to create a variable for this, and I'm just going to call it splash logo. So if I copy this variable, come down here, main container linear gradient, I'm going to call it splash logo. Put a colon, open, close braces, make sure you have a closed, make sure you have a comma after the last closed braces. And then you're going to say, for this, you can play around this how you want. For me, I'm going to say margin top colon 0, say width, and then you can play around with width if you want. For me, I'm just going to say, for the sake of this tutorial, is going to be 400, and then the height is going to be 250. I'm going to do resize mode because we want to make sure that the photo maintains aspect ratio. But in this case, I'm actually going to stretch it, so if it's too thin or too wide, too narrow, I'm going to make sure it stretches to the full width and height that I have. And then because this is PNG, I'm going to say background color. I'm going to set it to transparent. That way, that way this doesn't show up as white. Then I'm going to say align self, and then I'm going to put this as center. So if I save this, now as you can see, I have this right here, and that works as it was intended to. So now I have this like this. The next thing that I want to do is give my app a title. So I'm going to come up here, and where it says text, so saying splash, I'm going to give it my workout, or the name of my app. In this case, it's going to be space my workout app space, and then I'm going to give this a style. So inside the opening text tag, you want to put style is equal to open close braces, and then say styles dot title, because that is the name of my title, and actually I'm just going to say title text. So copy this, then come down here to where my splash logo is. After the comma, put title text, colon, open close braces, make sure you have a comma after the last brace, and then you're going to say font size. Again, you can play around with this how you want. My font size is going to be 50. My font family, because most devices don't have a font family set to default. I want to have a default as Arial in case it doesn't work on other devices. That's kind of like a go-to font. Then I would say font weight, and I'm going to put bold because I want it to be nice and thick and stand out. Then I'm going to say the border color is going to be gold. The border radius is going to be 5. And then you're going to say the border width is going to be 5. Then the margin left is going to be 5. Then you're going to do the background color is going to be transparent in case it needs to be mentioned. Do text align is going to be center because I want to make sure the text is center. I'm going to have the color be white, and then I'm going to have the width be 400, and then I'm going to do align self and have that set to center as well. So then if I come here, you can see that we have the workout photo like such. Then we have our radius like so. However, this does seem a little bit weird, so to fix this problem, because there's some spacing issues right here, instead of having the width be 400, let's do 350. That looks a bit weird. Let's do 400. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, 400, but then you have the margin right is off. So instead of doing the width like such, let's do the width and then have it set to be 100%. Just to see what that does. Yeah, that's too far-fetched. Let's do 75%. Yeah. Let's do 92%. Much better. 92%. It looks like it works and it fits. Then actually we can do the same thing. Yeah, it looks like it works just fine. Yeah. So that'll be true. The only issue is when this scales to different devices, it's going to change. It's not going to stay constant. So you actually might want to change the splash logo to also be 92%. That shouldn't change anything. Yeah, and then the height, let's change this to 50%. Let's see how this looks. Ew, that looks terrible. 42%. It still looks terrible. 30%. Let's do 35%. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. And then the margin top is 0. Yeah. Linear gradient covers all of this. So, anyways, so that's that. After we put the text, we want to add the last thing, which is our activity indicator. And so then for here, we can just say size is equal to large, color is equal to, you can give it anything you want. For my style, it's going to be white. And then the style itself, it's going to be styles dot, and then I'm going to say loader. or just say loading content. So that's the style. And then you have, for this, it's just a self-enclosed tag, so you don't need any of that. So then at the bottom, underneath the title text, you want to put loading content, colon, open close braces, make sure you have a comma after the last brace. And then for this, all you want to do is say margin top, and then put 40, so it's going to add some space. And now, as you can see, we have our PNG photo, we have our title of the app, and then we have our activity indicator. Because I have margin top here, you can see that it is 40 pixels between the bottom of the border and the activity indicator. You can change this if you want to be 35, it just moves it closer. I don't know, 40 looks pretty good for me. And then because we have justify content right here where it says center, that's going to put it in the center of the center, so that's why it's in the middle. If you didn't want to have it so squished, you can just comment this out and then see how it's up here now. But I don't know, I thought this looked good for what I needed it to be for a splash screen, and I don't know, it doesn't look too bad. So that is our splash screen. I hope you enjoyed this video. In the next one, I'm going to begin adding more of the navigation to the tutorial. You know, the different tabs, the authentication stack, the login stack. So that will be in the next video, or the next several videos. So I hope you enjoy, and until then, I'll see you later. Goodbye.